Hello and welcome to BikeWale, and today we're going to tell you all you need to know about two new Yamaha launches, the R15M Special Edition and the MT-15 version 2.0. Now we'll get to the MT-15 version 2.0 a little later in the video because there's a lot more detail, there's a lot more new things in that. The R15M essentially is just a paint job. So to celebrate or mark Yamaha's 60 years in international racing, participating and winning, they've introduced this paint scheme. Now this is not the first time that Yamaha has introduced this paint scheme. They have done it in international markets and it is reserved specially for its sports or race replica motorcycles. Now you can look at the bike. I think we haven't seen the color in the flesh, but from the pictures you can gauge and we can gauge that it is a gorgeous looking paint scheme. I think reason enough really to buy. Otherwise features, specs, etc. are identical to the R15M. The only thing that I would have liked to see is that the yellow color patch on the fairing is meant for a racing number, and maybe Yamaha should have put something there, maybe 60 to mark 60 years in racing, maybe 35, which was the number that they ran in their first outing in 1961 when they took the motorcycles out at the Isle of Man, or better still, go with 46. After all, 46 has ridden for Yamaha for all these years, and if you slap on 46 on a motorcycle, in India at least, it makes or it guarantees full sellout. Of course, you'd have to do a limited run for that in that manner. So that was the R15M Special Edition, and now let's talk about the MT-15 version 2.0. Now we'll split this section into two parts. We'll first tell you what are the changes or what are the new upgrades and whether they're relevant or not. And towards the end, then we will tell you whether the MT-15 version 2.0 is worth considering, putting in your consideration set to buy or not to buy. So the biggest change, of course, is the suspension. Now, before we get there, MT-15, when it was launched, it was supposed to be the naked version of the R15. It was true for the MT-15 in international markets and same for India. Of course, when it was launched here, it got the same engine, the chassis bit, at least the front end of the chassis was same. But then Yamaha, in a manner of speaking, to cut costs, borrowed the suspension from the more affordable or the commuter-centric FZ25 instead of taking it straight off the R15. So the MT-15 version, earlier version 1.0, had regular telescopic forks up front and a box section swing arm. And not that it took away a lot from the motorcycle, because the MT-15 is or was the original one, was very agile, very sharp when it came to whether you were filtering through traffic at a higher pace, whether you were going up your favorite ghat section, or even on a racetrack like we took it. It was brilliant there. It was communicative and you enjoyed it so much. There was no real effort in riding it. But then when you started pushing it a little harder and when you got to a section that was bumpy, that's when the lack of refinement and sophistication in the suspension came to the fore, and then it just didn't feel as upmarket or as sorted as it should have, given the kind of price that it had commanded. Now, on the new version, they have done exactly that. They have rectified that issue, and now the MT-15 version 2.0 gets upside down forks and an aluminium swing arm at the back. So the forks at the front, USDs, again borrowed from the R15, the aluminium swing arm, just like the R15. So now, in the true sense, the MT-15 version 2.0 is the naked version of the R15. And what do we expect with these changes in suspension? We expect a more sophisticated and refined suspension, which means we don't expect the agility of the MT-15 to go away, but it will be more sorted, it will be more pliant, it will be more manageable, in the sense that when you pushed it hard, when you push the envelope, now things are not going to go haywire. They're going to stay within the performance envelope that you can enjoy. At least that is our expectation, and you'd expect that you're, as consumers, we are expected to pay more for the suspension upgrade. So that's the least that we can expect in terms of improvement. But of course, we will ride the bike and then we'll have a clearer picture. But that's where the suspension upgrade should see the difference on the MT-15 version 2.0. The second change on the MT-15 version 2.0 is the instrumentation. It's still digital like it was earlier, but now you've got Bluetooth connectivity built into the instrumentation. So once you connect your phone to the console, it'll show you what your battery life or how much battery charge is left on your phone. You can connect it or download the BikeConnect app, and then once you do that, it gives you a whole plethora of information that you can use. Let me just read it out so that I don't miss out on anything. So it'll give you maintenance recommendations, it'll give you parking location, fuel consumption data, malfunctions, and of course rev dashboard, as in how many revs you're using. You can also enlist yourself there, and a global ranking is in place. Depending on how you ride, you can get yourself ranked there. So a little bit of gaming also included in that. Now, is this a game-changing instrumentation that comes in? No. Is it a deciding factor for people? Because it's got Bluetooth connectivity now, it makes a worthy purchase? No. If it didn't have it, was still a great motorcycle. But now I have an Aerox. I'm an Aerox user, and this is exactly what I get on the Aerox. Again, it's not the reason that I bought it, but now that I have it and I use it, it is a bit helpful. You can, use that data. You just have to remember every time to connect it. When you get on the bike, you start the bike, you put on the phone, you switch on the app, it connects, and then it tells you how your oil is, what your battery status is, when your service is due, so and of course what kind of fuel efficiency you've been running on various commutes, for instance. So it is handy data, but again, like I said, it's not something that would be a deciding factor on whether you should buy or not buy. Expensive now, the MT-15 version 2.0. So this, I think, is just aids and says that, okay, you're going to pay more for the bike, but we've given you this additional feature on the motorcycle. So in that sense, yes, it's a good addition. The final change on the MT-15 version 2.0 compared to the previous motorcycle are the introduction of two colors. Or is the introduction of two colors. You've got cyan blue and racing blue. So cyan blue is essentially turquoise blue plastered over the tank extensions and the wheels. Otherwise the bike is grey, matte grey. And then you've got racing blue, wherein your tank extensions, wheel, and the motorcycle's eyelets or eyes, surrounds, get the same color, which is a deeper blue. But otherwise, you have the previous two colors as well, the complete black or midnight black, I think it's called, and ice flow vermilion or something. So very complex name, but essentially it's a black bike with the white tank and the red beads. So that's where that is. And that wraps up the changes or what we've seen compared to the version 1.0 and the version 2.0 on the MT-15. And now we'll tell you whether, with these changes and the pricing of the motorcycle and where it sits, whether you should consider it when it comes to buying or just avoid it completely. To get to the buy or not to buy part, let's first bring in some competition into the fray to give you a perspective. First, we've got the Purpose, competition on Purpose, which is the Duke 125. It's got an upgrade in terms of styling. It costs a little more than the MT-15. It displaces less, it's a 125, and the power and torque ratings are also lower. So in that sense, technology-wise, they both use liquid-cooled engines, and so they are at par in terms of what they deliver to the customer or what they promise to deliver. Light, agile, fun motorcycle that isn't talking horsepower, but is talking more rider involvement. And on that front, clearly the MT-15, on the face of it, on paper, because like I said, we haven't ridden it yet, the version 2.0, on paper it seems like the better bet. But when you ride them, and we're just taking this from how the version 1.0 was, the MT-15 makes for a better buying option compared to the Duke 125. Now let's talk capacity. Now if we were to pick one of the more powerful 160, 155 or 150 to 160 cc motorcycles, then we'd bring in the TVS Apache RTR 164V, long name, but the horsepower rating is very close to what the MT-15 delivers. So you're talking in the 17 bhp space, but the TVS is significantly cheaper. Does it make the TVS better value? On paper, again, yes. But then when you factor in the weight difference, when you factor in how the motorcycles ride, it's not that simple. So on paper, yes, the Apache feels like better value. The MT-15 feels expensive, overpriced. So that's when it comes to just the capacity and power ratings when we talk about. And then finally, let's just talk price. Now, when I say price, 1.6 ex-showroom, you can get in 200cc motorcycles for that price. Of course, they are more basic in terms of what they deliver, but still, on paper, horsepower ratings are higher, price is similar, capacity is more, so those kind of things. And then again, when you look at that, the MT-15 seems like a more expensive, pricey motorcycle that doesn't seem like great value. But then, this is all the sum of parts. Sum of parts on paper, as it turns out, does not translate or is not equal to how the MT-15 feels on the road. Now, we don't know what the version 2.0 feels like, but we expect it to feel better than the version 1.0. But 1.0 on the road, the sum of parts turn into something else altogether. It's an absolutely lovely motorcycle to ride. It's not for, if you want value, if you want a fast motorcycle, if you want a motorcycle that's fun to ride, just that, and you want value at the end of the day, like I said, then the MT-15 is not for you. But if you're more discerning, if you're not chasing traffic light GPs, if you're not chasing 0 to 60 times, but you're chasing involvement, where you can push the motorcycle hard, you can push yourself hard when you want to experience or explore your skill and ability, that's when the MT-15 makes a lot more sense, because it just comes alive when you ride it hard. And we expect that with the MT-15 version 2.0, but only better, more refined. Let's see how that turns out. So clearly, if you're looking for a sporty, well-priced, all-round product, MT-15 is a pricey option. But if you're looking just for thorough enjoyment, I think MT-15 is something you might want to consider. So that is the end of this video. I hope we are able to convey what the real changes and what you can expect in the MT-15 version 2.0 and whether you should consider buying it or not. And of course, the R15 M Special Edition, we wish there was like a 46 on it, then there'll be a huge line of people wanting to get that motorcycle. But again, thank you so much for watching, and do like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know when new videos come and you can enjoy them. Thank you.